Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call. Levi, would you note that all board members are present? Item C, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded, to approve the agenda. Any other speaking to the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. Item D. Present the republished budget. Or excuse me, review the republished budget.
Levi, want to click on to the document? Is anybody else can they get the document?
Yeah, right at the bottom.
I have. No, I think I can just kind of read from the footnotes, but anyway, so as we talked at the last meeting at the end of the year, sometimes you do have to republish in order to recapture money, so it allows you to do other things, things kind of understand. So republishing general fund, moved from 8.069 or 8,069,236 to 8,473,512. That is because preschool age at-risk numbers increased. You can see there from 80,000 to about 120, almost 124,000. And at-risk funding eligibility would be from about 1.25 million to 1.725 or 725. It's important to note that this is not a tax increase, mill rate increase. Comes to the general fund, tax has already been done on that. It just allows us to recapture money that will allow us more flexibility as we move into our next fiscal year. That's really what happens. Without that money, then that's just money you would not have to move forward with. No change in anything. You've got your 20 mils. Your 20 mils is already done. Levi, am I missing anything you can think of there?
No, that's it. Yeah, really, it's just gaining or giving ourselves more budget authority. And that was all due to an increase of at-risk kids, which was due to the Medicaid factor that we weren't able to
Was
predict.
some of the factor to us underestimating our free lunch population?
Well, yeah, due to the way that we were figuring at-risk kids from the sign, the sheet that they had to fill out to now going to this was also, kind of difficult to predict how many at-risk kids.
And we really underestimated how well we'd be able to get parents support.
Right.
But I would say the Medicare was the bigger than Medicaid.
That was, yeah, if it wasn't for that, I don't think we'd be republishing.
My mind. But this is just the hearing part of it. So this is to answer questions. Go back to Jeff's good question last. This is not increasing our tax rate. This is not extra money from our tax rate. No, from our local tax rate. You've already paid that in your general fund. So this is money that comes back. This is money from other tax rate. There you go. We're way through our part now. In theory, maybe goes here versus somewhere else, but that's exactly right. 20 mils is the 20 mils.
And you were going to use the extra funds for at-risk programs.
It'll go into at-risk accounts that can only be used for that. Yes.
Because we have more at-risk kids out there.
So we have more authority, as long as we are using it according to how you use at-risk funds, then we capture that money. You can't find a way to spend that in theory with it.
We're going to use it for at-risk programs.
Yes.
Theoretically, we have an increase in the funding because we're finding more of these at-risk kids, it's going to reduce that. That's
It's a good
this
thing.
can help them out.
Yes, it's a good thing. Absolutely. You could pay more teachers out of that risk, in theory, they have to meet certain qualifications. It's easier for a student or a teacher, maybe in elementary, to meet those qualifications, fair statement. than-
Yeah, definitely.
Because of the students that they work with. Okay, really no action on that. Okay.
So,
The action will be in the next.
so now is the time for patrons to be able to review. It's published at this point. And until is it our next regular board? No. It's actually, in this meeting here versus our,
And this one coming up in
in a few minutes.
Is this the meeting to exceed the?
No, that's later. I'll talk to you. Yeah, that's all right, all right. I'll talk to you.
Okay, so if, our item E, is there any other questions? By the board. It's time. Not, we can, consider item F move to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. All right, we are adjourned from this meeting. We will reconvene here in 4 minutes for our regular board meeting. So. We'll begin our regular meeting. If you would again join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Levi, if you please again take roll call, noting that we are all still here. Item C, approval of the agenda. I'll second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those being the same sign, motion carries 7-0. Item D, comments from the superintendent. Okay. Item E, comments from the president. I have kind of a list tonight, but I would like to start off with a couple of recognitions. We have two. First, we have Darren Arment, who is here with us. Darren, I'll ask you to come up, but I am going to read this briefly. Darren is an HMS and HHS industrial tech teacher. Darren had perfect attendance last year. His dedication to the kid of USD 415 is admirable. I appreciate all he does for our schools and our students. All right, well, Mr. Arment. Oh, yeah, please. All right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Picture of the mom.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, just sticking out of the picture. Here, no, let's. So
No, this one I can't.
Actually,
Well,
yeah.
Sorry.
it's all right.
All right.
I'll endeavor to do better on this. Ashley Olson is the next.
Come on.
Ashley is an outstanding role model to our students as they begin their journey in K-12 education. She genuinely cares about each and every student and staff member she works with. She is committed to our students as well as her grade level team by showing her dedication to the profession. For the 22-23 school year, Ashley had perfect attendance. Her work ethic and involvement are admirable. We are fortunate to have someone as dedicated as Ashley as part of our HES family. Ashley, thank you for all you do. Okay, let's see here. Certificate, and just like graduation. Okay, and then I do have some comments tonight. 3 different topics. Unfortunately, the first one's not very much fun. Actually, none of them really are. I'd like to take a moment just to acknowledge the unexpected passing last week of Steve Block, who was a longtime board member. Steve completed an impressive 16 years on the Board of Education here before he stepped down in 2015. During that time, he served both as board president and vice president, and additionally as representative on the interlocal special ed board. His tenure overlapped mine by just a couple of years, and I always respected his knowledge and his dedication to our school board. He was a valuable member of our board, just as he was our community. He will undoubtedly be missed by everyone who knew him. I know that the district joins me in offering our sympathies to his wife Linda, their boys, and their family. Okay. Secondly, in reference to current events, I'd like to, and I speak for myself, not for the board as a whole, but I'd like to express my disappointment and frustration with the Kansas Department of Transportation. Since the city of Hiawatha cannot afford a new traffic control system at First and Oregon streets, ADOT's reversal of the decision to allow them to repair the existing lights will result in their removal. This is probably not news to everyone at this point. This will make traffic along First Street through the intersection unrestricted, which is exactly what the agency has said it wanted from the beginning. Whether it's actually to gain 4 blocks of unfettered traffic control between unfettered traffic flow between Iowa and Oregon Street, as they would tell you, or to reduce responsibility and free up their budget, as I am more inclined to believe. The reality is that abandoning four-way control of that intersection means that we will fail to meet the standard of traffic safety we have given our students since our high school was put in its current location 50 years ago. That intersection at First and Oregon Street serves the primary entrance to our high school, as well as a main route to our middle school. Twice a day, 5 days a week, that intersection becomes a gauntlet of hurried and experienced teenagers contending with everything from distracted parents trying to deliver or retrieve kids, to semis loaded with grain, to school buses, to tractors. The traffic lights have always helped to rein that in. Regardless of what total traffic numbers look like, these signals serve a critical role in providing safe access to and from our schools, morning, afternoon, and sometimes night. This should be abundantly clear to anyone who wants to understand the reality of the situation. Despite their traffic studies and whatever their reasons, I believe KDOT had to willfully turn a blind eye to the practical effect that this decision would have on our schools and on our students. There is no question that this, in my opinion, stubborn and callous decision by the Kansas Department of Transportation will create a significant safety risk to this community, and it will be our youngest and most vulnerable drivers on which it will have the greatest impact. All right. Lastly, we need to address the public comment portion of our meetings. I was absent from our last regular meeting, and I understand that things got a bit out of hand during that portion. That a speaker failed to yield when asked to do so repeatedly by the presiding officer. So I have two topics to cover. First, I want to say out loud that I'm an adamant supporter of the public comment portion of our meetings. I feel it's a critical aspect of good governance for people to easily and publicly address elected bodies. Also, whether it's warranted or not, this board cannot ban an individual from speaking. We can make it harder for everyone to speak, or we can do away with it altogether, but we can't single out any one person for a long-term revocation of the privilege. In my opinion, public comment is too important to give up on for a minority who won't follow the rules, and I refuse to do so as long as I'm president. However, speakers must respect the rules of the House. I say lobby to change them if you find them too restrictive, but respect them as they stand. If not for us up here, then for your fellow patrons. You're all swimming in the same pool, if you know what I mean. Now, for the second part, the practical part, going forward. In the case of an unruly speaker, we're going to institute the following policy. At the discretion of the presiding officer, be it the president or the vice president in the president's absence, the meeting can be recessed, and the board will exit the meeting and wait in the hall. The offending party will be asked to leave and will be escorted out by law enforcement if necessary. While this is being put in place to have a clear plan for speakers, it's actually something we can use at other times should the meeting be disrupted. I certainly hope and honestly hope that we never have to employ this procedure, but it's better to have a plan to not need it than need it not have it. So that concludes my comments. I know, Jim, you asked to have a follow-up comment in this topic.
As a presiding officer at the last meeting, I do have some comments on this. And I would like for you to hear the words, "The speaker is violating board policy. Mr. President, call the meeting to recess and ask the board to exit the room." Those are words that any of us can say if we feel that the speaker is in violation. It's the president's duty to call that meeting to recess. And here's the most troubling aspect of that. I heard a threat to the board at the last meeting of wait until next time, after the time had expired. In my classroom, I'll have a handful of disrespectful students around here. Never a threat, or wait until next time. And in my classroom, when it happens, after repeatedly working with that student at times, and it's a handful of times a year, I just quietly grab their books and say, "How can I leave?" We differentiate when we walk out of the room and different possible consequences that we have. But that student does not re-enter that classroom until there is a reintegration plan with me. And the relief that the other students have when that disrespectful student is gone, it's amazing the learning that happens. The tension is gone. That happens. Never a threat. Wait until next time. In 33 years of teaching, I heard that at the last meeting. I'm gonna listen carefully to what he says. I'll listen to that policy again. I walk this place and I'm so proud of it. And we have hundreds, you could name, everyone in this room could name hundreds of unpaid volunteers that help make this community better. Hundreds. And there's a tiny faction. It is going to be divisive. And we heard that at during the last election campaign. We heard their divisiveness. We have another election coming up. And to your point, I want to be prepared for that disrespectful divisiveness that violates board policy. That violates board policy. Public comment that I don't agree with. I don't have to agree with it. But when it violates board policy, I will stop it. And I invite you to do so. With these words. The speaker is violating board policy. Mr. President called the meeting to recess and asked the board to exit. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Right. So moving on now, we will go to item F, consent agenda. Are there any questions about the consent agenda that doesn't involve the trip request? Not everything, I motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Now. Item 2, comment from the public. Do we have anything? All right. Item H, curriculum change request. Mr. Mosher.
Yeah, since 4 dies, I'm gonna ask her to talk real quick. It's a very brief subject matter, just in addition to the class. Lauren?
Yes, I am asking tonight to add a course to the high school called Introduction to Officiating. You can see the course description as well as the state course code. Students would take this during guided studies for 0.25 credit per sport. And then I've attached also the implementation guide. This is endorsed by Keisha. I've secured $1,000 grant from the Iowa Tribe of Kansas and Nebraska to help offset the cost to begin with. You can see it is $45 per seat license, so that's per student per sport. And then I've kind of in that bulleted list give you some reasons why. Any of you that have attended any sporting events lately know we do have a shortage of officials. They're actively recruiting younger people to start maybe at the youth level or junior varsity or middle school. And this is a way that we can provide some skills to our youth for almost immediate employment, as well as help out with something bigger.
It's all online.
Yes, it is.
All Acacia curriculum.
Acacia is working through with this company. This doesn't take the place of the Acacia certification test, but this is basically the prep they need in order to then take the test with Acacia.
9 weeks or semester or?
So if the way our guided studies is set up is 9 weeks, so they should be able to get a sport done in 9 weeks. So then they could take it, say they do football the first 9 weeks, and they could do basketball the next 9 weeks or whatever.
And they could walk out the door and start working.
That's right.
So with your grant money, is that going to pay for the $45 fee? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Has there been much interest?
We had some kids that just did, we kind of piloted this, not the online version, but an in-person version. And we worked with our youth baseball and softball as well as Stacy Jasper and the Big 7 rules. And they we did that. We did not do the online portion where the online portion has a lot of videos, so they'll watch a clip and then they'll have to make the call, or they'll have to determine what rule it violated or things like that. We weren't able to do that really, that practical. But I have also talked to the Youth Basketball Association people, and we're very excited about the possibility of having some youth, being able to officiate those 2nd through 6th grade games.
And with it, work with your guidance studies, it's a true addition. It's not taking the place of anything else.
Absolutely not. It would be completely an enrichment and elective, something completely new.
Winner. Great idea.
We approve the curriculum change request as presented.
One second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the presented curriculum change request. Any speaking? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Along, item I, review school handbooks and AU acceptable use policy.
You're gonna see it fourth, so you see the handbooks for the proposed handbooks for the 3 schools. You're also gonna see KSD graduation requirements. Just want to get that in your hand. We're not gonna spend time on that today, but there are changes coming down the road that we'll have to start planning for that begin with this year's 8th grade class. So we have a little bit of time, but we need to start getting some things built for that. That's why that's in there. It's not really anything we'll go through today, but there's just some changes in what's required at the state level, and we need to decide if that can change what we require at the level. It's probably as simple as that. So I've got all 3 principles here, and I'm just gonna ask, we'll start with, how about elementary? But you've got a copy of that there, and Danielle, you just, Darren Cook is just gonna walk you through any significant changes. And Starenfeld, I think it's all yours.
Yep. We don't have any big changes. A lot of ours were wording to match the elementary school. So the wording on the non-resident students in our fire drills was updated to match what's happening. We bolded and underlined the information on tardies to bring more awareness for our parents on that part. And then the only big change was deleting the playground rule, no soccer or football.
You're gonna have some very upset boys.
No. It's just playing soccer and football, and I'm taking it out.
Okay.
No, yeah, opening it up to soccer.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
I'll smear the queer.
Okay, Mrs. Gates, would you like?
You guys have any questions for me? I just deleted that first section as we added that in during those fluid times.
Can you tell me what SOAR is?
Yeah, success of all Red Hawks. And so we used it for fluency practices this past year. It used to be known as SSR, silent, reading. We do have silent reading time, but we also have built in more fluency practices for reading. We actually have fluency partners. We track data that way, and then also with our math automaticity work. And we really just kind of adding a few things there. You saw that the pajama pants, making that. I know that seems kind of silly, but
It's a thing, huh?
it's a thing some days. And usually, people are very respectful and responsive to that one. So I visit with them a little bit. Power hour, I just wanted to add in the language there just to make that more clear, and that is dependent on staffing. We had it this year, but as you guys know, it's hard to find people, and we're still actively looking for professionals to staff that. Adding in just that section on Chromebooks there has always been a rule. We don't put them in our lockers, but kids sometimes don't want to make the extra trip to the classroom, and that gets very expensive if things are getting damaged, and more to protect their parents from paying unneeded and unnecessary bills. We adjusted the bell schedule just by a minute per class to build in some additional writing time, and again, to increase some intervention fluency practice time. So, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. I should mention AUPs are active, separate use policies actually part of these handbooks too, so there's not a separate document.
So for the high school, I sent a kind of a table of the proposed changes and the rationales. Hopefully that's in there somewhere for you. So a couple of the biggest proposed changes we would like to make at the high school. We would like to add in an attendance requirement in order to walk at graduation and also to attend prom. What we are proposing is that juniors and seniors have an attendance percentage of 80% or better in order to attend prom. In terms of that semester, we would look at that. And then seniors semester 2, we would like to see them at least come to school 80% of the time at minimum in order to walk at graduation. Obviously, they could still obtain their high school diploma, but in order to participate in the ceremony.
Would that have affected anybody this year?
Absolutely.
Really?
Like how many?
A handful.
A handful
Mhm.
that would have exceeded the 20% absent rate.
Absolutely.
I come from a world that has a 10% absent rate.
I would love to have that, but I thought, so I figured this out. Semester 2 for next year is 88 days. And so 80% of that would mean the student can miss 18 days and still be able to attend.
Thanks. The problem that I got with it are these kids that are walking, are they passing their grades? If they're not passing their grades, they're not getting they wouldn't be getting their diploma, right?
Not necessarily if they only have to have certain credits to graduate. And kids are smart and they know that.
I know, I get it, but I'm just looking at it from the aspect of the families. We're not letting our kids walk across the stage. I think it's gonna create.
Does that include excused absences, like illness and so forth?
So if you got a kid that's out 16 days from illness,
That's fine.
hospital, they're fine.
They would be excused.
So an unexcused absence, so.
So this would be 18 days or more.
Total unexcused and excused absences. So that includes somebody who would be sick and in the hospital, that would be in their time,
In a semester,
right?
that's a lot of time gone in a
Yeah.
semester. Like, that's not the whole year. That is.
I know, but there's gonna be exceptions to that. I mean, that's
There's
just,
always exceptions, but the rule should be, you need to come to school if you want to go to prom and you want to walk across the stage. Because we're setting the standard that you've got to show up to work every day, you've got to show up to college every day, like, this is just good practice for the rest of their life.
The state's definition of chronic absenteeism is 90%, 10% or more absences. So these kids would still be considered chronically absent in the state's eyes.
Lori, just help me, I'm gonna play a scenario here. If a kid has mono and misses 15 days of school. And then, whatever other, and they reach that 18, then they would, according to this policy, they would not be able to walk across the state.
It would be their last semester, their senior year.
Only for the last semester of their senior year.
Yes.
And mono would, or something like that, an extended absence, an extended illness or hospitalization would be.
We did not specify, we
And I
just.
know it's so hard to do that, I understand. And I just.
This
I mean,
isn't targeting those kids and we don't
I
have.
know it, you're not, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's okay.
When we have long-term absences, we're still ready because of homebound instruction.
Absolutely.
So if we have homebound instruction in that type of situation, that would supersede.
And if
That-
they're
that would
listed,
count
if
as-
they're coded as homebound, then they're not counted as absent.
Okay,
If they go on homebound, that's not an absent. That doesn't affect the absenteeism rate.
how much does that happen in the second semester, kid on homebound that? No, it's rare. I understand the intent of this and I appreciate it. You get to come to school.
You have to.
It's that,
Well, you have to
it's that exception.
Right? You have
That I don't Thomas, and I share that.
I think we're just opening up a can of worms, is what I think we're doing, but that's just me.
what are we doing?
That's what a board's all about, but let's sit here and hash it out, but
It's policy, that's what it is.
I understand that, but some
What's our,
policies I'm not gonna agree with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's why you guys should talk that out.
what's our policy for those kids that reach that percentage? Like this year, what did we do to try to get them to come to school?
Well, depending on their age, we can file truancy, but if they're 18 truancy, they won't do anything. In certain cases, we can reach out to agencies or parents. there are times that parents just wash their hands of it.
In those cases, would the threat of not being able to go to prom or graduation, make a difference?
This year, I believe it would.
So are you saying they had enough credit to just graduate at first semester and then they just quit going?
They still earn the grades, they still earn the credits to graduate, they just were absent.
And I'm sure it impacted their grades, but maybe it didn't impact it enough.
Or they have A days are very easy and B days, that's all of their core classes that they need, they just don't do on A days. B days.
Jeff, we know you are a tightrope. We know you're a rule follower, but not all kids are rule followers and they figure out what benefits them and. We do have established policies and I think.
For example,
we're setting an
we had no
expectation.
policy
If we're
this
gonna, if
year.
we're gonna give them a diploma and not let them walk across stage,
Why isn't,
Why?
why can't the walk across the stage be the reward for doing what you're supposed to do?
that's, they're still getting their diploma.
That was still good anyway.
Yeah,
They're gonna
well,
get it in the mail, there's.
I understand
If they're not doing theirs, they're holding up their end of the deal, why should we reward them as letting them cross the stage?
Well, devil's advocate though, isn't there,
Yeah.
the deal meeting the requirements to graduate?
Right.
I have mixed feelings on this. If we, next board meeting is July 11th. Is there some unforeseen reason that we couldn't? It is, isn't it? That's, or excuse me, 10. Yeah, is there some unforeseen reason that we couldn't revisit it and chew on it until then?
Sure.
Well, that's.
Yeah, we don't approve, we're not approving these.
Hey, really, this is my
First
first,
read.
you asking questions, getting the information you
Yeah,
need, so you
yeah,
can ponder on.
That's
it
right,
now.
that's right, that's right.
Anything else?
What about the kid who is gonna earn for band, FFA?
Extra school activities.
Okay, so those don't count.
Okay, so then I have a question about the policy where you added, where the pre-arranged school activity, the trip sponsor should check to make sure that each student attending the trip has a form properly filled out.
Mhm.
So who has to fill out that form? Do football players fill out that form?
If they, and that's what specifies in there, it clarifies if they miss the entire class period, then yes. There was some confusion on that. We did this last year, and there was some confusion on who actually looks at those forms. So that's what this does is just clarifies who has to fill them out, who's it turned into, and who looks at it.
Okay, so that's anybody leaving the building, whether it's a sport, activity, a family vacation. They have to
No.
get that. No, on
These are
family
school
vacation.
activities, these are
Just school.
pre-arranged school activities.
Okay,
Have you guys, I saw on the cell phone one, have you guys had a lot of issues with cell phones?
So the biggest thing on the changes for cell phones, they wanted to, the staff, we had a committee that looked at this, they wanted to add smartwatches. That's becoming more of an issue and that was not addressed in our policy. In talking to other Big 7 schools, you know, that was something that we are looking to add. And then we wanted to, restrict, phones from back rooms, which, we wanted to be more, I don't know, explicit with that, than what we were. And then, the committee's recommendation were to allow phones at lunch. We did a little pilot with that. And I was amazed at how many kids still just had conversation and they didn't get them out. There were a few, but not nearly what you may think.
The policy about prom and who's eligible for prom, underclassmen and so forth is unchanged, correct? As far as a junior, senior can't ask one of an underclassman to go, correct?
That's the way it's written right now.
Yes, okay, so, for instance, I know there was one situation where it was brought up about bringing one in from another school and whether it was, this last year, whether that was advisable or not. Time you change policy isn't at the time it happens in the middle of the situation. It's now when you address it. So, I was wondering, have you ever given any consideration to maybe pulling the junior, seniors at the beginning of the school year to see, you know, what their take on something like that would be?
Yes, Mr. Moser and I had that conversation about obtaining some student input, when we're back in session.
Okay, and that's, is it fair to say that at the beginning of the school year would be early enough that you know, August or September of 23 could affect prom of 24?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I got, because it sounds like, I mean, I only know us here, but it sounds like different schools have different approaches. I don't have a strong opinion one way.
It's all
of the input.
One thing we note, if, and I think that is a great idea to do that, you can still, you wouldn't have to change that policy now, you can change handbook policy, it's just a policy, you can change that in September. Again, like I said earlier, it's just not time to do that in April, March.
Right.
When proms.
What's reactionary?
Yeah, so we want to do that, yeah. Okay, juniors, seniors should be the ones that. But they will- okay.
Well, I would have to say, as a parent who's had to fundraise for after prom, if you start allowing underclassmen to come in there and they can be somebody's date, then sometimes popularity comes into play. And they're talking about more students that would be at the after prom. And personally, if you haven't fundraised for the after prom, it's a lot of money. And so if you're looking at adding another 20 or 30 kids for it, maybe,
Well, they would be, I mean, they'd be a date,
right?
so I would just be,
I don't think that's so much about after prom. I
Yeah.
think this is actually going to
You
prom.
could.
Well, even the prom, even as prom, they have to raise the money for the food. They serve at prom for the decorations, for the little trinkets that they hand out. I mean, there's more than just my girlfriend's a sophomore and I want. to
Well,
be
I
able to
think
take
you
her
might
prom.
see a few more kids get a date and go together instead of loading up and all coming as guys and all coming as gals. I think you'll see a lot more kids being asked out, but I'm not sold on that idea. I'm just saying, I don't think it's gonna cost any more. If it is, it's gonna be minimal. I don't think it's gonna be a lot of money.
Well,
But you know, if I was a senior and was dating a sophomore, which it happens. Right over here. No. I mean, it's dating a sophomore. No. Your son was dating a sophomore and he could take her to prom. So, right. But that's the rules. So anyway.
no, I didn't bring it up to advocate one way or the other, just simply to, just simply to see if it was something that the kids who would be doing it themselves could weigh in on at a point where it would still be advisable if the board could act on it rather than close, when it's a little too close to the moment. Okay,
And wait, I got one more.
yeah, please.
Sorry, honor roll. I would like maybe something in the policy that states how we're going to recognize those students. Whether we put it in the newspaper, it goes on our Facebook page. Because I just think that's important to be able to get that out so people know who that is, because what's the point of you knowing that you got excellence honor roll if nobody else does?
In other words, I think Horton puts it in a paper, even up here. Horton High School puts it in Hiawatha World, if I remember right. About who's on honor roll or all.
So is it just an urban legend that you can't print the names of the kids?
That is an urban legend.
Yeah, schools do it. Yeah.
I can tell you what the.
It used to be, not that I was necessarily on that list after middle school, but they did.
It used to be public.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the FERPA rules from a federal perspective, you say that you have to have a policy that says what your publicly identifiable information is that you will receive, and you get to it, and most of the time that's directory information, so name.
So, but it's okay to post how many points a boy gets or a gal gets the ball game.
Yes,
I know.
It's not academic information. I don't know.
Anyway, that was
You're
just something-
I know,
But-
I just wanted to.
You know, one thing I would advise we do is just make sure we're in step with what we're supposed to be legally, and we can find that answer out. Maybe it's as simple as a release that parents sign that says it's okay for kids' name to be in that. You know, because it's not directory information like the yearbook would be. But maybe it's okay, for sign that and it'd be fine. Sure. Either way, let's just find out if we need to do that first. That's an easy thing to find.
well, it would be nice to be able to celebrate that, though, sure.
I
To
got,
be able to go back and look and say. I mean, when kids go to fill out scholarship applications, there's nowhere to go look to say, I got the excellence honor roll, or the red honor roll, or the blue honor roll. 4 out of the 8 semesters.
We
of
did,
high
we did
school.
pictures on social media for first semester, but second semester, we didn't even have those grades yet, because grades aren't finalized until school's out. But yes, I can look into that, I can make a.
I've got one last thing to ask, and this has kind of been a burn in my saddle since I've been on the board. When I, when I was first on the board, we handed out valedictorians, salutatorians, and had to speak. And yet to this day, I'm still a big fan on that. Other schools are doing it, why are not? Is this what the board voted on, or is this something the board can vote on, or? Why are we not doing it when other schools are doing it? I would much rather hear a student speak that is a valedictorian, salutatorian than just about anything else out there.
Well, I know the way we do it with Come On, we honor a lot more students than we do valedictorian. So
Well, you can still do that.
We still have a
You Still have a
valedictorian.
valedictorian, salutatorian. And that kind of goes back to where you can't list their names in the paper, but you're having kids at graduation that aren't standing up for anything. But yet you are having kids, so. You follow what I'm saying?
we could certainly look at, having a student speaker, if that's what you can do, and that student speaker could be one of those, well, that would be Maggie. Yeah, Maggie,
Soon is the highest.
soon, okay, excuse me. Yeah, I don't have a lot of personal experience with me. But it could certainly go that route. Chances are, those are the same people that are gonna be your valedictorian, salutatorians. They've all got the same GPA. Another thing you run into is how do you determine when you've got 8 and 9? This year we
Well, the
had,
classes are taken.
this year we had 9.
When
I
you
think, was that our number of 9?
4.0.
Or, yeah.
But
Well-
then, like, I know when I graduated, we had 7
Yeah.
and they all spoke and it was miserable. Oh, it's so long. But I mean, I think you should be able to figure out how like go off, okay, who got the highest ACT score, who had.
You do, we do, is a governor's scholar, is the top student in our school. So that's already done.
Okay. Are you suggesting, Tom, that we have the governor's scholar be a speaker?
Yeah. That's, to me, that's valedictorian, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Another
I
option.
mean, I think I remember who won it this year, but she spoke at the 8th grade recognition.
No,
No,
Joe's,
no, that wasn't.
Who is it, Josie? Yeah, Josie was.
But,
Okay, I'm
but
sorry.
it was the
She was the
outgoing,
president of
the outgoing student body president that spoke to the 8th grade.
So are you saying that this is in addition to an alumni speaker?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I mean, guys, graduation started at 2:00 and we were out of there at 2:40.
Yeah.
Okay,
it was,
I think we need to give these kids a little bit more
I agree.
time than 40 minutes.
I agree. In 20 minutes, we were reading the names and walk across the
Yes.
stage.
Yes.
I've seen schools where the students would select 2 or 3 speakers. And they would vote on 2 or 3 speakers they might hear, and maybe from your pool, so it's not 7. But then
Well, I'd
two-
be fine with 1. I mean, if that's what we'd list as valedictorian, I'd be fine with that.
And if that person didn't want to speak, then the next person. did.
Yes.
Right,
You don't have to call them valedictorian, call them what they are, governor's scholar.
right.
That sounds more.
I think everybody's gonna know what they are.
So, would you, so if, I guess before, we excuse Lori, I would ask that if that's the direction the board wants her to look at regarding graduation. Be a good time to know now.
To Tom's point, I'd like to hear students speak.
Yeah, me too.
Is that something you vote on or just?
It's not first of all, I don't think that falls under policy handbook.
So we can just do it next week.
And so that is something that we could do as an agenda, and it's an agenda item for the next. Or is it something that we even need to have?
I think if you.
Is that just a consensus?
You can do consensus right now.
Okay.
Those are pretty much marked.
Does anybody really have an objection to the idea that the governor's scholar would, and I guess let me ask Lori, and is that you both agree with Amy's assessment that that is the top scholar for the class?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
that's what-
Okay, all right, so would there be a consensus amongst the board that if we were to select a single student scholar to speak amongst the graduating class, it would be that recipient? Okay, sure. Ms. Ford.
just throwing this out there because you need to know this, there could be times that we may not have a Kansas Governor Scholar if we have no students that meet their criteria. I hope that's never the case, and I hope that that's never an issue.
Or if they change that, if they ever change that practice from the, of recognizing a governor scholar, then they would have to change that practice.
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Ever since I've been here, we've always had one, but
Thank you.
Let's start with that. And if for some reason that looks like it's not going to work, then we would maybe make suggestions for how to select an alternative student speaker.
Okay.
Is that good enough for tonight? Okay.
and you would like this to be in addition to the student selected speaker. Because the
Yeah.
student vote on who speaks.
Yes. I thought you were having one student speaker, I'm sorry.
No.
Somebody.
Like Peyton Newell spoke.
Oh,
It
Plus, it's too much.
was Mrs. Davis the year before, right?
And
And Mr. Cleaver, and, oh, yes, yeah. Okay. Yep, okay.
Are there any other questions on? high school
As
yet?
far as the handbook, I don't think so. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will revisit those next month for approval, correct? Okay, close of fiscal year, item J.
So because of some mechanics of it and legalities too, there's, well, this is an awkward thing this year. It has to do with the fact that we republished our budget. So right now you'll see transfer, end of year transfers, which is a common thing that we do, but because we know those exact numbers, if you approve the republishment of the budget, we will not know those numbers until we're told those numbers. And you have to make a decision from that. Yeah, it happens very quickly here, so I've added a little bit of clause right after the part where it says transferring the from to at-risk and general fund to at-risk from the LOP and the bilingual to the LOP. I've added the other, the board recognizes dollar amounts will be adjusted if the republished budget is approved. And that I would ask that you, the superintendent, would therefore be authorized to then close the fiscal year according to basically whatever those new numbers are, which will be more than the transfers are. Levi, is that captured?
Yep, you got it.
So
It was kind of weird.
how's that?
Yeah. That captures it.
That gets it. Makes sense to me.
I'll second. So in order to
I would
clarify this,
I would actually.
can I read this
exactly like
as it's written?
as it's written.
Yeah, okay. So it's been moved and seconded to grant authority to the superintendent to close the fiscal year, including transfers of $1,162,071 to at-risk from the general fund and $302,359 to at-risk from the local option budget and $1,517 to bilingual to the local option budget. The board recognizes the dollar amounts will be adjusted if the republished budget is approved. Superintendent is authorized to then close the fiscal year accordingly. Is that consistent with your motion and
Yes.
second? Okay, is there any speaking to the motion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. All right, thank you. Moving forward, it is time for officer elections. I'd like to take a moment just to give some context to this. As you know, state statute has us do officer elections in accordance with the calendar year. This board elects to move them, as is our right, to summertime to correspond with our school year and our fiscal year. As of a year ago, or possibly 2 years ago, we decided instead of doing that at the first of the meeting of our fiscal year in July, to do that the month preceding. And that way, the new officers will start presiding over the meeting at the beginning of the fiscal year when the next meeting takes place, which will be in July. There is only practice. There is not policy as far as terms and term limits and so forth. Our practice has been that officers sit in each role for 2 years. But that is certainly nothing that we have to respect. And traditions are made to be broken, as they say. So right now, I've been president for 1 year. Jim has been vice president for 1 year as well. With that, we can open it up to questions as well as any nominations for officers for our fiscal year 23-24. Keep in mind that we will all have to address this at the new board will in January, at which time we will either elect to have elections again. So this is really only a 6-month thing, if you think about it, or to sign the waiver and take it on for the year. Is that all clear as mud? Okay.
You made a point, you said traditions are made to be broken, but I also believe that traditions are made to be respected as well. We have to think about that, and with that in mind, I nominate you as president.
Thank you, Jim.
And I'll nominate Jim as vice president. Keep it the same 2 years in a row.
Second. Okay, so I think we should vote on those separately. So it's been moved and seconded to reappoint Ian Sheets as president. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. It's been moved and seconded to reappoint Jim Rubidoux as vice president. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. All right, great, sure, sweet. Congratulations. Okay. I'll see you here, same bat channel next. All right. Moving forward then, we have item L, district capital projects and facilities. Mr. Moser.
Yeah, Mr. Maury couldn't be here tonight. I'll let you know why that is, so hopefully he'll be able to, I'm sure he'll be able to do it somewhere next meeting. List items that he wanted to talk about, striping was done on the track, and we've had an opportunity to look at it. It looks really good.
And they did move the start to finish closer to 100.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that looks really good. The track should be ready to go. It'd be nice to have track meets again. So, West Campus update, the construction crews have started on that. They're looking for being done on July 31. There's going to be some times when they have to cut power from each of the different buildings. You kind of see some dates there. They're kind of moving from one building to the next building, regarding the old bridge building, the shop building, that one, and then over to the metal ag building. So high school storage, I know when we looked at, we did on our facilities tour, there was some discussion about taking things out of some of the locker rooms that were there. And I know that they are working on that, and I think some of it is cleaning out one of the storage units in the storage building. One thing that's not on here, and I have talked to Chris, and I have talked about that, is trying to look at improving some of the lockers in that one locker that we looked at, whether it's replacing them with some lockers we have, maybe over in the, I guess what used to be the wrestling locker room, or looking at seeing what it's going to take to repaint those. Those take that electrostatic, that type of paint, and yeah, so those do take that. So may not be something that can get done right now. We're looking into that, but maybe it's just somewhere. Some of those we right on, some of these, some other things. So I want you to know that he is looking into that right now. High school bleachers, they're getting ready to start that here in the end of this month, or part of next month. Still on target for the end of August, to be completely done. The refurbishment, meaning, they're taking all those wood planks off and refurbishing those, or stripping those down, resanding, refinishing, all of that. And then our electrical work is being done as well. And then another thing we looked at, me and I know you didn't be there at that, but we looked at some of the flooring. One thing I really pointed out was that our kitchen area and serving area over in the elementary school, you'll see a bit on that. It says elementary kitchen. You'll see a couple of different quotes on there. One is it's a kitchen and serving area, and then there's this other smaller quote underneath that, which has to do with, so they put a little finish up the side of the wall, kind of a mop that finish. I think it's 4 inches. Just keep the water from getting up on the wall there. So you'll see that in that quote, and I think you'll see that in some other spots as well. So you've got 3 different quotes there. I've got lots of people give them to that. Yeah, here they are. So elementary kitchen, 7,700. And then you got base. And yeah, so code, base, and flake. So that is that little room where, yes, it's just off the kitchen to the north, you know what I'm talking about, there's that little bit there. So if you look at that, that pile is shot, it's broken in most places. It's very unhygienically serviced, lunches there, it needs to be cleaned and it never looked clean, regardless of what you did. So it's really taking everything off, sanding it down, and then putting in the epoxy floor in. So the flake walls is that part that I'm talking about, going up like 4 inches like what it is, so. Color to be determined, I guess we have to decide that, so.
Mrs. Deerfield, do you have any comments on that?
She likes Kansas City Chiefs colors a lot.
Yeah.
So. Well, how about red hot colors, red and blue work?
Yes,
Okay,
we can do those.
I would really, I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
I just wanted to there on the spot, see if you had a great idea.
That's a long story about the Chiefs.
Oh, okay.
Tell me you're wrong.
There you go.
Red,
Red, blues, red hot.
That's not good.
And then you've got the high school, and we're shockingly, that's actually more square footage, quite a bit more square footage in that biology room. And then you've got the same situation there. So the base is that, yeah, the base is that, 4 inches of the front. So that's a total of 19,000 there. And then the last one you have there is much smaller. It's a staff restroom in middle school. Again, similar situation, that tile is just going to be on repair. It's a different kind of wear, I guess. But anyway, you'll see costs there. That was pretty inexpensive. It's considered 2,175. So those things we looked at, and we said needed to get done. Question is, do we want to go ahead and proceed? We want to approve those estimates. And one of them that will require, you could actually, if you're going to approve them, you could actually approve the whole amount. I think you'd need a total for approval, because it's definitely over. Well, one of them is over 20,000 on its own, so, or you could approve the 3/7, however you want to do it. But the one on its own has to be approved for sure, and actually, so does.
None of them's over 20,000.
Well, the 19, oh, okay. Well, oh, never mind, forget about 20, 10, my limit's 10, you gotta approve it because they're, over 10, sorry.
So I'm a little out in the wind on it because I wasn't here, so you know how you rank the priority of it. So I would, defer to the balance of the board. If you feel that these were all priority ones and you want to approve them together, feel free to make such a motion. Or if you want to, if you have an objection to that and you know that there's certain ones, then I would suggest that you lead by making the motion for the ones that are a priority.
Well, we definitely looked at the elementary school kitchen.
That's not.
That's not.
We have.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So the science room and the chemistry room is just something we haven't afterward.
Yeah, we just looked at it because it is in need, but it's not in the same need that the kitchen.
Okay.
It does take a beating just because of the nature of the subject area, but it is not the same condition as the elementary kitchen.
And how would that work in those rooms with all of those? I mean, the bases of all those cabinets would stay, right?
Mhm.
They would just, does that epoxy go up the base
Yeah,
of those cabinets
Yes,
too?
that's how I would understand. They are not equal to those.
And do we have money?
We do, and come out of capital outlay. We've got money for all 3, actually.
Okay.
So the elementary kitchen would have to be.
Yeah. All right, let's do-
And that's time sensitive because we'll be out of there at the end of summer for
That's a big.
July's the perfect time. Yeah.
To get
Things we have moving, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest the boards in general are all time sensitive. They need to be done when the summertime is. The question is, besides the kitchen, do you feel that this summer is the time to do the others? And if so.
Do they have the time
Mm-hmm.
to do all of them?
I say if they're here on one, do all 3.
That's all Pressure does.
Get her done.
Is that, do I hear a motion in that?
I move to accept the bids from Commercial Floors. I'll give you the totals.
Yeah.
12,749 for the elementary school kitchen. 19,404 for the high school G1 science room and G2 chemistry room. And $2,175 for the middle school staff restroom.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bids for epoxy at the buildings as presented. Need to speak to the motion, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried 7-0. Mr. Moser, anything else on that?
No, I think that's all, again, it's been moved and pressed from not being able to be here tonight, but if you have any other questions, ask it to the stuff, I'm aware of it, I give it.
I know we talked about the tile at the high school. Was that ever, was anything looked into that outside, like out in the commons area? Colors and stuff.
The walls.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said tiles, I'm thinking
Yeah.
floor at this moment. Nothing's been done, if you'd like direction on that, to get a bid on that. we can certainly do.
And then also the echoing stuff in the elementary school gym.
Yes, I know he has contacted, I've
Okay.
worked with them before.
Okay.
St. Joe,
Land music.
it's probably land. Okay, so.
Again,
We come back to, we come back to the fact, again, from what I'm understanding, if you have that hard surface, you're gonna lose
It
on
was
some
the
of that.
flooring. Wasn't it?
Well, we talked about putting, you can put a flooring down with like a rubber,
Hard flooring would help some. So,
but then one of the places he talked about was we like almost like fabric draped throughout it. That's not gonna work,
Did
but
they put acoustic tiles in this? I feel like
I
we
think that that's what we had.
we had a discussion. I thought it was a done deal several years ago. They never made it happen.
Nothing's been done.
no, because, I can't remember who worked with that, and said, well, you're not gonna gain anything.
Okay.
No, that's been a while ago.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
different employees.
I remember it was.
That's fine. Yeah.
Different abilities. But if you'd like, I can simply we can just say, Chris, hey, you need to go investigate this, get us some bids.
Yeah, we also talked about. Yearbook pictures of coming up with like what Seneca has. Putting up
Oh, yeah, I can do that on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so, yeah, I've got the company.
In other words, you go up and hit the display and what year and they.
Kiosk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've got the name, I've got pretty much the known.
I know you said something about the locker rooms, but we really need to look and see what we can do on that. Them there where they have all their tape and all that stuff, where the cabinets are being. I don't know if we can have Darren go up and look at it, see what it costs to, if you can do something.
Where's that at?
It's in the men's locker room. When you walk in, right there, before you turn to go down to lockers, there's a cabinets there, they got holes in it. Where they keep the tape and all their stuff. I mean, it just beat to death. But
Well, that one time, Darren, to look, but those walls are curved. That's what, when we did the walkthrough, they said. Those walls were curved and you had deferred it to somebody else.
Right, so nothing's been done on that, then?
No.
and there's outlets down there that are. Need to be covered up. It needs some tender loving care.
Yeah.
Well, and also all the storage in the girls' locker room that has like the volleyballs and all that stuff.
I
That
think
needs.
we're looking at moving that.
Yeah, we're trying to get that
So,
back out and.
I don't think that anything's ever done to them lockers since that school was
To
built.
be honest, I think a lot of times we go through there and we see some of these wooden cabinets that were built in the 70s.
Yeah.
And they look like student projects. And we think, hey, wouldn't that be great for one of Darren Arden's students to do it? And then we think we'll suggest that, and it kind of falls into this black hole because he's got to then figure out who's gonna do that and all that. We may have to invest some time and money to get it.
Well, and I'm all for that.
I mean, if it worked out and he had a student that wanted to do that, whatever, wouldn't that be great? I think in maybe like a sports medicine room or something like that, you did have some kids that did that.
And that was a pretty easy,
Right.
straightforward.
Right.
Those were square.
And then I don't think we should reject that, but it's so easy to fall into, oh, let's let Armor's class do that. if this is stuff that needs to get done, we may just have to get it done. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, there's some things that have been beat around for far too long.
Well, we got volleyball and basketball teams that are coming here, and I'll guarantee you what most of their lockers don't look like what we got. It just needs some tender loving care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right.
One other thing I would point out that he didn't put in here was, so the windows here in the main lobby.
Yes.
And then replaced, which was a little weight on that, but those are replaced and they look great and they do not open, so don't try to open them. They were a lot cheaper. We've got north and south window, oh, they were rotten there. North and south windows are in better shape than those two open. Ventilation, but the big ones on the east end, they look nice. So that was just finished at the end of last week.
All right. Okay, item M, review for HMS laptops.
I've got Eric and Tim, well, Eric, is Tim here too? No, just Eric, so. We've got 3 bids there. Eric, you want to talk about the bid that you and Tim would recommend at this point in time and why?
I can't remember the exact bid. It was the cheapest and the quickest. So I mean, they're all the same product. So same laptops, just different people give them to us. So
Quicker and
quicker and cheaper. So
And
so you don't want
DCW?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we've worked with all those companies before.
yeah.
so you've worked with this DCW and we haven't had any problems?
Yes, we worked with her when she was at what's the other one? SHI. She was with SHI and we ordered a couple other things from her when she left there and went to this new company, and everything's been great. So
And they are in stock.
yep. And supposed to be here quicker than any other.
So I guess you need a motion on that.
I would entertain one.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we accept the bid from DCW for, I just shut it down, $28,296.17 for new laptops.
Also,
It's been moved and seconded to accept the bid for laptops as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Excellent. Now we're on to superintendent's report. What do you got for us tonight?
All right, there's a few things here. First of all, hey, I want to kind of tag along in your KDOT. Statement, there's.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, there comes a point in time where you just have to kind of say this is how it is. I'm not there yet. So I'll be meeting with city officials again later this week and trying a different route that would not be that route that's been unsuccessful at this point. So I'm not there yet. So and I don't think the city is. So just know that. So some topics today. Lori, tell us about the Apply All-Star School recognition. Is Lori here? There she is. I mean, I knew you were here at one point.
Hiawatha High School was designated an Apply Kansas All-Star School because of our activities last year. We hosted an Apply event in the fall. We hosted a financial aid night, and then we hosted post-secondary signing day. And those are the 3 things that you have to hold in order to be designated and apply the Kansas All-Stars. So we did receive that designation last week.
good job.
Great.
I don't know if it's out on Facebook because we're gonna have.
It is, I pushed that.
Thank you. Summer school, you know, we're up and running. We're in week 2 now. On summer school. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to know we're up and running there. Our numbers aren't quite what they were last year, but not far below it, but they're not what they were last year. Next year would be the last year that we would have that under our estimate. So a year from now, we can probably take a look at where we are with that and what we want to do. We've got maybe in the summer, we get one of them. Oh, absolutely. So then I mean, I was probably, I tell you how much, I probably will find that out now, how much was allotted, but then what it actually being possible, probably actually less. But yes, so definitely we'll do that, yeah, that's absolutely do that. Then I think the other thing is what was gained from it. We find some data and say, what are we getting from it? What's happening other than a good time, what kind of learning is taking place and what evidence do we have to show. Let's see, we need to find a new minivan, but we're. I
mean, you make it front page.
That's about what minivan is good for, but that's just what I'm doing. But yeah, so Jim is looking for a different vehicular route. We talked about a couple possibilities. Considering how we use vehicles right now, and sometimes we have to use those in place of buses, and it really, and you can't get the transit vans right now, simply the chassis aren't available. We probably need to be looking at something larger like a Suburban. And that's not necessarily means to swap for a 2014 minivan. I'm just gonna tell you. We won't do anything, but I want, until without board approval, but I want you to know we're kind of looking at some different options. Of course, like a lot of things, you can be cheaper if you're willing to wait. And if you want it sooner rather than later, you don't, it's not really, it's gonna be more expensive. I think we can look at a couple.
Are we needing to push this, that we need to get it ASAP,
I
or do you
think
think
we
we
need to
can?
get it here probably before basketball season starts.
Okay.
Football doesn't really matter, but probably does in basketball.
What about volleyball, cross country, those type?
I think we can probably do what we need to be. We generally take larger vehicles for volleyball, cross country, that probably still coming. Okay. I just know once we get basketball, we'll be a lot more vehicles around and doing some more school activities. Okay. So I'll just keep you apprised at the next meeting for them to feel like we need to do something with student school in Suburban. I believe it's 10.
No, seven, 9 at the most. 9 people at the most, if you get 3, 3, 3, but most of them are 2, 3, 3.
So you can go, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're rated for 10, not that you would necessarily, well, we have buses.
You don't have enough, they don't have enough space. for 10.
Yeah, but listen, there's really, and then there's whatever, there's the number, and then there's really a lot of anyway, besides, yeah.
Well, would it be stupid to look at like a 12 to 14
Yeah,
passenger van?
yeah, you can't do it, you have to have CDL.
Huh? You gotta have CDL.
then. So you lose, anything, I believe at 11, if I remember 11, what? Yeah, those are.
If all the coaches take it.
Yeah. We want to make that so that ours can drive those if needed, and our coaches can drive.
So that's a good niche to fill.
Van though, minivan wise, you're looking about $10,000 on what they're gonna get us on their insurance. And by the way, that's a lot of paper. If you have to do a lot of papers, say you didn't start fire.
Do they know what it is?
I don't know that they'll investigate, but that smell that it emitted is burning electrical.
But has somebody like reached out to the vendor of the minivan? So that got reported, because thank God we did not have like children in Parsons in there.
A whole lot more paperwork if we had children at all.
Right, but that's why I didn't know if it was like a Chrysler.
We don't,
minivan.
yeah, we're not aware of
It
it.
was most likely.
It was a Dodge 2014. Yeah.
It could have been a mouse in there that was chewing on wiring and it finally got to where it needed to be. So it could have overheated. You know, something could have got hot. I mean, anything.
But the smell was.
I think good luck on a 2014 trying to get a car company to say, yeah, it's our fault.
No, but I was just in my head, I was thinking of, do we need to contact them and say that this did happen? 30 Dodge dealers, probably Seneca. Would be the closest.
My guess to me, that's probably where it's.
Yeah.
School safety, been working, I'm sorry, baseball, softball, should be complex, it's not French word. So today, complex. I just handed you a list, and I'm gonna give you advice to read from the bottom up. It's actually wasn't better that way, give you an idea of how much, what was used for this spring, so. Those come from the high school AD.
Well, have they gotten like actual like figure? Cause I'm across the street, so like I see it all the time. And I do want to say that the kindergarten did use it one day too.
This is.
I saw where they had batting practice. It was so cute.
So that's what I have for Mr. Wong. So not the other.
And he was okay with this, Lonnie, I mean, this is,
He put that together.
okay, but he,
I mean,
Yes,
okay.
he's the one who put that together. Those numbers.
Help me understand, like, on the week 320, he's got 40 combined hours, 10 hours for softball, 10 hours for baseball, that's 20, so 2 weeks there. The 20th through the 31st.
That was just-
Okay,
Cause they're figuring they're gonna be playing a lot of games.
Yeah, it's 10 hours per week.
it's 2 weeks.
is anybody keeping actual figures?
Well, we know that we practice all those up. It was a
Right.
very rainy season, so I
Right.
doubt that we practiced most of the time there. Cause we had terrible baseball weather. We had terrible baseball weather for games.
Yeah.
But we certainly had it for practice and it was very wet spring. At least timing with softball and baseball. So, that's what I can tell you after this. School safety, been working with the PD and sheriff's, so police department, sheriff's department. Really the reason we started working with them is that they were paying a school safety grant, which I've submitted. And I'll let you know when and if we're approved for that. But you'll need to know about it because there's matching funds that are involved. It's a 50-50 type of deal. But I needed their input and really kind of helping us assess where the money could best be utilized. And really where they did a couple of things. When they did the safety assessment. Then from that, they determined really more surveillance or camera capabilities, more playback capabilities with an MVR. The other thing we discussed is the possibility and capability, and I've worked at other places where this was the norm. So if a situation were to happen, a crisis in your building, that police dispatch actually has access right there to your cameras. And so there's eyes in the sky, if you will, right there at Command Central. It's a very good thing to do. We did that in Crawford County. Now, that does not mean that their job is to, you have to sign a memorandum of understanding. It's not their job to sit there and surveil your cameras. That's right. But when there's an issue going on, then that's when they
So
do
they can
that.
plug in and then see
Yeah,
the
they-
riding officer, what's going on.
Yes, and they can kind of do that. I mean, so that we wanted that capability as well, but we also needed more camera coverage and probably some better. The other thing we talked about was, and
What about take a new central unit to do that?
it would take new MVRs to do that. Yes, and that would be part of what that grant money would, it would go to MVRs. One here and one there, as I understand it, by that, again, I'm sure it's 2 MVRs, one there and one here. And more cameras. We have too many blind spots, and that high school is a nightmare. Round makes more blind spots and you don't have the long hallways, getting more coverage. Hosting for future training for law enforcement, preferably at our high school. Okay, so that would be them working together and maybe with other regional entities, agencies, what have you. And really just doing some training. So one, it gives them more familiarity with the building, and two, it just lets them to continue to be sharp and be prepared. So they've been collaboratively working for that, and they did a good job of helping us, and they helped me write that grant, and it's done and submitted. It looked, what I had said, it looked great, so I'll let you know when we find out about that. But which brings us to the next thing, SRO. Okay, so Levi, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I would believe that this upcoming year is the last year that we have a discounted price of the school.
Yep.
After that, it would have to be a new grant written by one of the law enforcement agencies, or we would simply be doing that all on that.
Well, and isn't it required that we have a gap year anyway?
I don't know. It sounds logical.
In my memory, which is not great, I think it was kind of like a 4-year thing, and there was a portion covered for 3 of those, and the 4th year, the last year,
We're
was
on it.
totally on. You're right, and we had to fulfill that.
Yeah.
Well, you're stuck with what you like.
Yeah.
So, I just want you to know, coming down the road, that's a decision we're gonna have to think about. So, not now, but. But anyway, I wanted you to have that information. Summer budget planning, hey, it is that time of year again. summer is pretty much about budgeting for us. That's really what the summer has to do. Just want to give you a little reminder on budget and timeline. Remember a few years ago, all that timeline changed. What we used to do in July really became what we did in late August and in early September. A lot of that had to do with RNR, the revenue neutral rate. And I left you some notes in there. Just remember, we've got that 20 mils that we deal with. That's automatically the obligation. And if your assessed valuation goes up, can you be revenue neutral? No, you cannot. So it's possible. So anyway, that's just a quick reminder on that. The timelines, latter part of July, we'll have to notify the clerk of the ceiling of what that revenue neutral rate would look like. And then we really start into that process of budgeting. And we can never pass that ceiling, of course. We generally put some cushion in there. We never even come close to that. So that's what we've got to do. July is our month to do work on budget. Levi and I will be going to some budget training now. I don't know, 20-something.
23rd.
23rd, thank you. Then August board meeting is when I present the budget to you guys. You guys hash that part out, and then we do the hearings in September. So we do the adoptions, hopefully thereafter. Just a little timeline of what's gonna be coming here in these next few board meetings with budgets. We're entering this. Quite there yet, but we're-
When does the board do the most discussion of our input on the budget?
during that presentation that will occur in July. Before it gets, because I have to have your permission to publish.
Okay.
So it doesn't get published for words. Okay. Fine.
Lonnie, on this deal with cameras, and I know this is what you're saying about the dispatch and stuff, but I know we had problems up here at the high school with the restroom. With,
Well, it's funny. Yeah.
and is there any way we can put up cameras? Just note who's going in and out of there, and that camera can have a time on, a timer?
Yeah,
Because-
I sure would.
I mean, I think that'd take a load off of,
In addition
Gloria.
to that, we are also putting in this summer, and it's not gonna be that expensive, but they're basically vape detectors and so type of noise. They'll also alert to certain noises. Lori, can you remember anything else about that? That's pretty much it. Basically certain noises, loud noises. So vandalism type of noises or anything like that.
In every bathroom?
Every back.
In the high school.
Okay, high school.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've already got those ordered. They're already ordered. Good. They'll get installed whenever they get here. We needed help with that, but cameras pointing towards bathroom, yes, well, you know, you can't have them in, but yes, we will have more cameras. More. It should. Last thing, I put this tennis, anyone, if you remember, last year we were talking about this tennis program. The board decided we would continue it if the funds were present, they were present. Not really that way anymore. Okay, so also, you kind of wanted us to kind of report again. Look at it a year later. We didn't have a girls team, right, Laura? We did not have a girls team this last year. We had 5 boys and 3 of those were seniors. Okay. So I think we need some direction as where we're gonna go with that.
Is that tennis in the fall or spring?
All roses in the fall. Okay. I think the numbers are probably not there to support that.
So is it something, since it is a spring sport, is it something that our new AD could put a poll out at the beginning of school to gauge what interest is and go from there? My first
boys,
thought
yeah.
for boys, for girls, we didn't have a program here last year.
We didn't have,
We offered it. We had one girl sign up.
Okay. I don't want to jump ahead of anybody else.
Do you know who of?
And she graduated.
But how about the boys that will do it next year?
We had 2 freshmen this year, so
So 6 of the 9 graduated that played last year.
no, we only
Signed up
had
to play.
boys and girls total.
Boys and girls total, yeah, 6 of the 9 graduated, so there's 3 potential right now, current students that might come back and play tennis next year.
We haven't,
2 boys, 1 girl,
we have,
or 3 boys.
we have not talked to the incoming.
You're freshman.
Do we have a coach?
Girl.
Not for girls.
Not for girls.
Well, I think we're at the standpoint, if we do away with the girls, we need to do away with the boys too.
You have Title IX while you.
Yeah, we gotta. And it's not like we don't have track or baseball that they, or softball, they can't go out.
Or golf.
Or golf, yeah. Thank
You have
God.
other activities
Well,
that
that's
are
pretty
not
bad.
athletics.
So,
Track.
I mean, I'll just, I think I pretty much stated my opinion. I don't know if you guys want to think on it for a month, but
Well, I'm reminded of what we offered for wrestling last year. We had similar numbers at the middle school and there was a co-op available. Is there any kind of co-op? I don't.
There's not.
I don't think there is. No, okay.
Or there's like one of the boys.
Boys
program
tennis
and
is
stuff.
Perry.
Oh,
That's
Perry.
the only other league school that offers boys tennis. Sabetha does offer girls tennis, but not boys tennis, right?
That's it for the whole.
yeah, I just,
And that's it for the whole league.
And then you also have the condition of their tennis courts.
I
that they're
got
in.
sports, yeah. Do we need to make a motion on this or do we want to think about it for a month?
I think the sooner we know, the better.
Okay, well, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we do away with both girls and tennis programs due to lack of participation. In between, with students on both boys and girls.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions here because the ability, let's see, the availability of a program for girls in Sabetha. I know it works one way for sure that you can't outnumber boys sports to girls sports, it's cut both ways. Where if, say, this one individual female student wanted to do that in Sabetha and it was available to them, would her participation in that then mean that it would somehow screw up the balance of things if there wasn't the equivalent available for boys? No, she did graduate, is that right? The girl graduated? Yeah, okay.
And when you think, okay, so you heard another school had boys and one that only had girls. My understanding is that because the student came out. Only
Okay. So that's a fairly clean break, then if the girl graduated. I just didn't want, if there was a co-op that we had.
But
somebody-
per Title IX, if they just had boys tennis, there would have to be a.
else.
But does it go the other way?
Yeah, it goes both, yeah.
It does, okay. Okay. Okay, all right, so I'm done with my thoughts. So there's a motion, is there a second?
Hate to do it, but I don't see how we can keep it if we don't have any participants and we don't have.
And the funding, the outside funding is gone.
So I second Tom's.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to discontinue both girls and boys tennis, citing lack of participants, facilities, and coaching staff at this point. Any other comments, questions, speaking to the motion? Amy?
Well, I would like to maybe table it for next month, just to allow our AD, maybe, I don't know if you know the freshman boys, if you could talk to them if they were interested in it.
You're speaking of the incoming.
Right.
Right.
Right, I mean, just for the simple fact, we did have the wrestling, you know, we had 3. And we said if they had met a minimum requirement, we would do it. If you reach out and we get no feelers back, nobody wants to do it. But I think we need to give kids and parents time to say, hey, I was thinking about playing tennis, maybe, I don't know,
We do have a boys coach, is what you're getting at there. Because we gotta look at both sides of it. So let's play that scenario out. And I don't forget that we do have a motion on the table, okay, so let's say we've got 5 freshman boys that say, yeah, I want to take advantage of that. We have a coach for boys. Then we would have to be able to offer girls tennis in order to counterbalance that for Title IX, correct? Okay, right, which right now we do lack a coach, so we would need to be able to. Does a co-op count? Does a co-op count for that?
For Title IX.
Uh-huh.
Because we co-opted with, the middle school level with Key West, that was not ever brought up as a question.
Right. I suppose that asking the question does not equal a commitment.
Right.
So there is that,
I would just like, if people in the community, if somebody wanted to donate to it, or there was kids who
Right.
actually wanted to participate, I think they need to be able to come and contact a board member or contact the high school and say, hey, yeah, I wanted to do this, versus us just cold turkey kind of, it got put in here tonight. We're asking, if I had a kid that played tennis, I might be a little upset if I didn't know this was going to be on the agenda and you were thinking about cutting my kid's program. Maybe I would have came and spoke during public comment to defend for
well,
that.
Amy, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I typically like the idea that when it's something that has, decent consequences attached to it, or if there's some finality to it, that we try to have at least a period between one meeting and the next before we take action on it. Because it gives time to vet it through the public. I know that, sooner is better than later, but yeah, there might be, the miraculous private donor, there might be interest that we're not aware of, those type of things. So although it would maybe be advantageous to know now, I would also be in favor of waiting until July if you feel that we can afford to, even though it.
Certainly can regarding boys. It's normal.
Because I don't know, when they do their schedules, don't they have to have all their schedules out by a certain period of time for the following year, for the school year? For sports?
No, I mean, they're pretty, flexible.
I know like the football schedule is,
So yeah, that,
Yeah,
I mean,
That's set
but-
2 years.
huh?
But tennis, no, we can pick out tennis matches.
Okay.
Right now, we have 0 contracts for tennis, so if we're gonna offer it this fall,
right, because we didn't have one in the past two, in the past year.
and
Right, there's no league schedule, like with all the league activities, we set those 2 years in advance, and since it's not a league sport, we don't have those preset schedules.
And ultimately, it might be the kind of the daily dollar short of the girls' side of it that limits our ability to continue with the
Right.
boys.
Right.
But I guess if Tom's willing to table his, we can at least give it the old try, and give Mr. Mosier the direction to try to reach out to incoming freshmen if it's possible, and I mean, is that how we would look at it?
I would say probably, yeah, Mr. Kettler would need to do that. Yeah.
I will go ahead and table that till next month.
That is it.
Okay, on that kind of general comment though, if I could just throw in, he was talking about things coming up. I would like to try to have another board goal session sometime second half of July, if we could, if everybody's around. Maybe I could send out a survey monkey or something, like one of those calendar apps thing to see. We are, now that the board races are set, and we know for sure that 3 board members will not be returning after the end of December. I would really like to get their input and their wisdom over the last 8 years before they depart. So try to get one of those scheduled in. Okay, all right. Sorry.
That's no. Okay.
All right, so now we've come to that, is it that time already approved the republished budget? Okay.
And you should have that's code 99, if I recall right. That reflects the numbers that we talked about in previous meeting. Levi, anything you would add to that? This is kind of, now is a formality, you just can't vote on the same hearing that you have. Are you in the same meeting that hearing?
Yeah, I think it would just be basically echoing what we said in the budget meeting, which, you know, is that it's not a tax or mill increase on anything and I mean, it's gonna provide more budget authority for at-risk.
Any comments or questions? By the board?
I don't think we accept that. Budget and publish.
1 second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the republished budget as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. Item P, special education report.
A lot, same. They're doing summer school and still trying to find paras.
Okay.
And Courtney's new superintendent starts July 1st or July 1st. We'll have,
You're not knowing.
just we'll need one more,
Probably will be asking for more funding.
yeah.
I know, well,
Yes.
And we'll need a-
he's already set
We'll
a
need,
meeting with myself and. Oh, it'd be Jason. I think it'll be Jason that Wayne, the new superintendent.
we'll need one new board member to be on special ed. Come January.
So then,
Well, I didn't say I could do it, but sorry.
pickings are pretty thin, but there's a few people who aren't here tonight that would be.
They, so.
You might not have.
Yeah,
Well, Jason, this way.
true. Okay, so,
I'll be something new board.
executive session to discuss non-elected personnel. I would. 20, okay, and does that include bringing people in?
I would like to have Ms. Fordyce and Mr. Hiawatha enter for the first one.
Okay. So, I would request a motion to go in executive session for 20 minutes. You say 20?
Yes.
Yeah, to discuss non-elected personnel.
So moved.
Second.
To move the second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Same sign, motion carries 7-0. Okay, we were in executive session for 20 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel. Is there any action following executive session?
Yeah, mine keeps logging out.
Everything that's on the list, even the resignations, correct?
Yes.
I move we accept the resignation of Josh Mosier, Hiawatha High School Athletic Director's Assistant Principal.
Been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Josh Mosier, AD. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0.
I move we accept the resignation of Christy Wagner, Agent Jet Counselor.
Been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Christy Wagner, HHS counselor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. Any other?
I move we accept Kelly Meyer as the HES library para for the following school year. Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept Kelly Meyer as a para at HHS for the following school. At HES, excuse me, thank you.
See, that should
Library.
be HES and HMS.
Oh,
It should be
well.
both HES and HMS. That's
Let
a
me
split.
correct that.
Do you amend the
Yes,
motion as presented?
yes.
Okay, and I believe I did hear a second already.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0.
I move we approve the hiring of Jeanette Russell as a HES para beginning next school year. Second.
Been moved and seconded to hire Jeanette Russell as an HES para beginning next school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0.
I move we approve the hiring of Courtney Rockoff for the high school JV volleyball coach for the 23 school year. 23-24 school year. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Courtney Brockoff as the JV volleyball coach for the 23-24 school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0.
I move we approve the hiring of Zach Nelson as the HMS PE teacher for the following school year. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hiring of Zach Nelson as the HMS PE teacher for the 23-24 school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. Any other action? Hearing none, we'll move on to item R, executive session to discuss employer negotiations. For 10 minutes, if I can get a motion as such.
I motion.
Move.
Okay.
Move.
Move.
Move. Second.
Move is second.
Okay, it's been moved. Levi, do you have that straight?
I think.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session for 10 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. We're in executive session for 10 minutes to discuss employee negotiations. Is there any action following?
I move that we accept the ratified master agreement for the 2020.
Then approved, or excuse me, moved and seconded to approve the ratified master agreement for the upcoming school year. Is there any other speaking to the motion? I would like to say congratulations. This is the earliest time in my memory that it's been done. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, same sign. Motion carried 7-0. One more executive session to discuss matters relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student. 5 minutes.
All second.
I'll move.
All move. Shield second.
All those in favor say aye. With the same sign, motion carries 7-0.
It's unlocked.
That's great.
Aesthetics, you've got some school board.
That's Okay, we were in executive session for 5 minutes to discuss actions adversely or favorably affecting a student. Is there any action following executive session?
I move we accept the early graduation request as presented.
Been moved and seconded to accept the early graduation request as presented. All those in favor say aye. Those same sign. Carry 7-0. Item next is adjourned, sorry.
I think it's like Z. We're at like item.
Yeah, item T is adjournment.
I was.
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
What the people's for?